You're listening to episode 181 of the Super League Pod. Expect to hear about ill discipline, international news, ill discipline, Tompkins confirmed, ill discipline, Jane McDonald's BAFTA, and all your fan reviews from an interesting round in the Challenge Cup. Get strapped in and don't mouth off. It's SLP time. Hello everyone, welcome along to episode 181 of the Super League Pod. I'm your main host Mark, and I'm joined this week in the revolving co-host hot seat by Tim G, Hull KR and fan and Coventry ground announcer. How are things for you this week, Tim?
Yeah, pretty good. Yeah, had a nice week. Obviously, Coventry playing on Saturday in the snow rearranged fixture against York, so that was good. Nice day and nice journey up there as well, because the trains are all on doing a different route. So I ended up going up to Birmingham and back and coming back again, which is actually a lot quicker.
All right.
So it was quite pleasant. Then I had a quick stopover in the Bullring as well, because I had 40 minutes between trains. So I was able to dive out into the shopping centre and back.
Did you buy anything special?
Unsurprisingly, some exotic tea from the Brompton T2 in there.
That you're going to drink hot or cold?
A bit of both. One of each.
One of each. Right. How conventional of you to drink tea hot, Tim?
I know. Well, one of them is a mint and vanilla, which is quite nice. That's a good one, cold. And then I've got a peach and cherry, which is a hot one.
Fair enough. Well, obviously, I was just mentioning to you before we got recording, the Illingworth household has been celebrating cruising with Jane McDonald winning a BAFTA this weekend. But also, this weekend was my first weekend for a long time where I've not been at a game. First game Wigan have played in England this year that I haven't been at, but I had to go in and do some day job work this weekend, so that's been a bit crap. But other than that, things are great over this way. So let's get on with the show, Tim.
Let's do it.
So after we've got the shout outs from last week to cover off, because everyone was really impressed with Rich Wilkinson, who was the co-host last week, we've got a couple of other bits that we've had through the week that we'll cover off. We'll get on to the news. We're going to lead with an international flavour, and then obviously we'll get reaction to the Tompkins news being confirmed as well during the news section. Results and fan reviews from the Cup through to the amateur game as well to cover off. So we've got tons of good stuff to get through. We even had a review on a game that took place, 50 years ago. So we'll or was it 60 years ago? How long ago
60
was it?
years ago.
60 years ago.
No,
50
no,
years
50.
Ago.
Because it was 60 years ago that they first televised the Challenge Cup.
There you go.
And then it was 50 years ago as the final. And then wasn't it 30 years ago that the first of the Wigan run started?
Yes. And
he was doing this in commentary on Saturday.
Yeah, Dave was going through it all. 20 years ago since Sheffield mounted what for some reason seems to have been treated as a bigger upset than when Fev beat Hull 35 years ago.
That Sheffield win is the only cup upset ever.
Yeah.
Have you not read the narrative? The same way that Rugby League didn't exist before Super League, that is the only cup upset that's ever happened.
Well, we've got loads to cover off that. Within that, we'll make those two things clearly not true. But we're going to start with a bit from last week. Lee Whitnell at L Whitnell, one of the former people to sit in your position, Tim. He got in touch to say, brilliant episode this week. You'd never know soap opera for men and Mark Hill were on the other side of the world from each other. I am shit at these quizzes, though. Alfie Garner at Alfie Wolf said to Rich, at Soap Opera for Men is Rich's handle. He says, good job on the Super League pod, mate. Love the honesty and bluntness of your confidence. Funniest pod in a long time. However, get ready to eat your words, fella. It really could be our year. Winky face with a tongue stuck out. David Powell got in touch at St David 2911. He got in touch to clear up what was going on with Saints wearing their away shirts last week. Tim, he said, The Saints home shirt fiasco was caused by Krabby's being the matchday sponsor, and they sponsor our away shirt. And David also got in touch with something he'd been reading on the Red V forums, posted by a Wigan fan on their Rogues Gallery.
The username says it all there, doesn't it? Gives you confidence in the...
I'm sure Rogues Gallery has often been handed out temporary bans for his views on any forum that he posts on. But it came up with like 6 points, basically, did Rogues Gallery, and David has sort of reduced them down into quick bullets for us to go through and discuss each one of them all. So the 6 ideas that were posted, which are ideas to improve the game, particularly around the ruck. The first one was enforce the play of the ball with the foot.
Exactly, yes.
It's pretty
why are we not?
It's what they're doing
in
the NRL.
Why has that rule got dropped?
Yes, I don't think either has any contention with that idea. Number 2 was go back to the old ball steal rule. It should be up to the ball carrier to retain possession. So this basically, people who can remember 25 to 30 years plus ago, basically you used to be able to rob the ball in a multiple man tackle. Any view?
I'm not sure. I think with the way tackling has developed in the sort of multiple tackles and the gang tackles that you see now, and the standard sort of 3 men in a tackle,
the wrestle.
Yeah, I don't think that would work now. I think it would be too combative, and it would also be with one referee system in particular, it would be a nightmare to enforce when was a legitimate steal and when was, a bit naughty. If if someone's holding on a bit, if they suddenly twist an ankle and then strip it.
Yeah.
Those sorts. I'd probably stay away from this one.
Yeah. Well, I agree. I think. I mean, there is often inconsistency around what happens, but I don't think that the old method encourages exciting free flowing rugby, because people won't hold the ball in one hand, they won't look for offloads because they'll be too worried that anything could get stolen or knocked out the hands or what have you. Number 3 was one touch judge to mark the 10-metre defensive line, the other to mark the 10-metre line for the team playing the ball. I thought this happened.
I thought when I did my referees course in my very brief refereeing career,
which nearly got resurrected at the weekend.
Which did nearly get resurrected at the weekend. There was at least a moment of doubt. To explain that story, the referees were stuck in traffic on the M1 because they hadn't realised that there was some diversion work going on the M1 at the weekend. So they got stuck, so they didn't turn up to 2:15. So it was starting to get a little bit hairy. We're starting to ask around who's actually a qualified referee left around the building, and someone recommended my name, which is interesting given how brief my refereeing career was, but we'll tell that story another day.
But I thought this is what happened, so I didn't realise this was a new thing. Number 4 was a 30-second shot clock for scrums and goal line dropouts, which is again something they do have in the NRL, where they have a lot more money and the capability to monitor these things with more referees on the field.
Yeah, and people, as much as anything, you probably need an extra volunteer who's just sat doing the shot clock.
Yeah.
As well as your 2 timekeep, because
you also need a way to make sure that the players are aware of the shot clock and that sort of thing. I kind of think it's a great idea. The practicalities are maybe out of reach for British Rugby League, but if it wasn't out of reach, it would be the ideal thing, because I don't know what you think, but the length of time that games are taking, all the blame's getting pinned on video refereeing decisions, and I think there's two other factors that are huge in this. One of them is injury precaution. We're taking a lot more time over players when they get injured. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. And the other is, how often does the time get called off? Because players throw the ball away at a dropout to get the time called off. There's no repercussion for them. They just get the time called off. At a scrum, the same things seem to happen very often. And every time there's a turnover of possession as well, when someone was tackled on the last. Again, huge delays. Time gets taken off the clock, so the game lasts longer. And it's got nothing to do with video refereeing referrals. So I kind of think it'd be good to have something, but it's just impractical, sadly.
Yeah, you do see as well. I think you see some of the more top referees tend to stop the game more, and anecdotally, so the higher level you get to,
Yeah.
they're more used to stopping the time. Whereas watching more League One and amateur rugby league, they don't stop the clock as much because partly a lot of the time they just really want to get the game done, but a lot of the time they do try and keep it flowing as much as they can. So partly as well because they haven't got the TV scrutiny on them, which is as much as anything.
There was a few great examples at the weekend that we'll get to in our Challenge Cup roundup
Yeah.
of games where there was absolutely no need to be stopping the clock, and there was a scrum about 8 minutes left in the Warrington game, which was already running 7 hours longer because Toronto were grubby little whingers.
Well, as well as that, they
took
kept
time
kicking
off.
it out as well.
Just keep time on. Just keep time on. Everyone wanted to get to the draw. No one wanted to see what was going to happen in that game anymore. It was done.
And also that the Toronto kept kicking the ball out, and they kept then being slow to form up and faffing about, and that just added time as well.
Number
and
five.
That was before all the shenanigans, which we'll come to.
Number 5. This is an interesting one. This is the one that I probably have the most question marks over. So it says no interchange, 6 substitutions, which are once you go off, you stay off, an 8-player bench with a minimum of 2 21-year-olds. Now, I think putting any sort of minimum, any restrictions on team selection in the top grade level is diluting your product immediately. So whilst the theory that sits behind it, which would be, promote youth development and stuff like that, you're better doing that with having a fully functioning reserve system and adequate coaching and support for player development and that sort of stuff, rather than diluting your top level product to
especially
force player development.
Yeah, and bringing in players just to sit on a bench.
Well, I was also thinking it might work counterintuitively. Like, you might have a 21-year-old, you might have an under 21-year-old who's ready for first team because they're that good, but because you need to fill your bench quota, you've got to put him on the bench rather than start him, and then you can't bring him on because you can't waste your substitutions. I think there's a conversation about reducing interchanges, and that conversation is there to have more tired players on the pitch, so that one thing from a player safety angle, I think it reduces the physicality of the collisions. Now, there's also the more fatigued players might be more susceptible to certain types of injury, but similarly, you're going to lessen the impact that people are getting. But also, it just opens the game up more when you've got more tired blokes out there. So that's the reason for reducing interchange for me.
I do quite like the idea of having substitutions, though, as well as you have your interchange bench and then 1 or 2 substitutions as well, similar to what they do in the AFL. Whereas I think it's in the AFL, it's a 4-man interchange and then one or 2 sub slots. And I think it depends on the competition as to which. So you have 2 irreversible substitutions.
Okay.
And then they're substitutes, and they can just substitute in and out. And then you have 4 of your normal interchange, and you've got 8-10 interchanges there.
Right. I mean, that'd be an interesting thing to explore more. I do agree. It's just it becomes more complex in managing it, I suppose, and harder for the fans to keep up with what's going on there. But yeah, interesting suggestion. I think the bit that I'd put a line through straight away is the minimum 2 21-year-olds on your bench. And number 6, finally, and this is one that I also thought happened, the referee to shout held when a player is held up and momentum is stopped.
I'm pretty sure that happens.
That's what they're supposed to.
95 to 98% of games that you hear that. You hear held every 3rd tackle.
Yeah, some interesting and sensible suggestions there. Some not so much agreed on. Maybe a couple of them are just rogues gallery wanting the referees to do what they're supposed to do, which is fair enough to an extent. Okay, just to finish off the feedback sections with a big shout out to Nate of the Rugby League in America podcast at Podcast RLA on Twitter. Get around, Nate is doing great. Is flying stuff off the shelf in terms of output. Is doing quick chats almost every day and is releasing 1 or 2 podcasts a week since he's got going. Look out for a special crossover episode between the 2 shows in the near future. We're thinking maybe of getting something together around the bank holiday weekend, maybe after the summer, at the end of the summer bash. So look out for that there. But get yourselves around Nate at podcast